Undergoing his return to play from a HIA, from a concussion incident that happened.
So he was taken off early.
Yeah.
We all saw the incident. He passed an HIA though. Is that what happened?
That's absolutely correct. Passed all his testing through his protocols and subjective questioning with the information we had at the time. Went back in at half time, was reassessed, as everyone is, for precautionary measures, and was deemed not fit to go back on in the second half. So I think he was looked after according to the protocols and roles really well in that sense.
Is the reassessment something you do, or is that what happens in all cases? Because some people might be injured late in the second half.
Yeah, look, you'd have to ask the medics about the protocol for that. There was 2 doctors, with over 50 years of medical experience, one independent, one our own. But they check all players, particularly those who've had knocks at half-time. It's just something that we do, and I'm sure the independent doctor was keen to readdress that as well with Tom. But you'll have to ask them. I don't want to quote them out of context.
Is there an aspect of looking after Tom where you would be more concerned about anything that happens to him, given the dreadful run he's had?
Yeah. Look, and the way he puts himself about, and because he's had a long time out of the game, Chris. Look, I used to find that with Jack Berger, and there's similar traits between the two. The guys go so hard into collisions. When you've had a year out, your timing can be slightly off. On this occasion, he just caught a hip on a temple like a sweet spot. It wasn't even a big collision if you look at it. And we did look at it back, obviously, afterwards. So that was just a poor, unfortunate collision for Tom, caught in the wrong place.
He had a couple in 2022, but since then, nothing that sticks out in the memory from concussion. Is that something that you're not concerned about for him going forward, given the way he plays?
Not at all. Not at all. Not with Tom, no. No, it's not on the radar.
Excellent. And others who were injured?
Oh, I don't want to go into too much detail. If that's all right, Chris, at this point in the week, there is a couple, but I'd rather not reveal all, because teams, Saracens will prep and will probably prep for those players in the eventuality that they might believe they're playing.
I'm talking about Saracens prepping for them. No Vunipolas, no Owen. How much of a different prospect is it, if it is?
I think the DNA, the bones of them will be very similar, very, very consistent with how they've been over the years. It's worked for them, that kind of game model. No Owen, but, Burke looked good last week. No Vunipolas, but you've got Christie, who was on fire, with Ben Earl, who come into the back row. They had Ezekwe on the bench, so whether they go Ezekwe or Maro Itoje, you've got another 2 internationals there. They're not short of a player or 2. It's probably the wingers, which are a little bit less experienced, I'd say, from losing Maitland on that one wing and Lewington on the other. But again, Elliott on the right scored a really good try, didn't he? So I think you go against a team like Saracens with the pedigree they've had, the coaching team they've still got, the experience they've managed to bring through, and there's still some very senior players there, with the enthusiasm that they're looking to bring to the fore. And you take that lightly, you end up getting served up like we did against Exeter last year. I think if teams start thinking this is a different side to how it was, you're likely to get caught out. So we're taking them very seriously this week.
Lovely. Thank you.
Cheers, Chris. Guys. Thanks, mate.
I'll jump in if that's all right, Al.
Yeah.
A quote from you after the game. You're obviously happy with the win, but you said, I think, so you can correct me if I'm misquoting you, the sport has got to be better than that. It kind of, I don't know how much you follow cricket, it kind of had hints of the Bazball, Brendan McCullum, Ben Stokes attitude of there's an obligation to entertain. How do you view something like that? Is your obligation purely to win, or do you think you actually have an obligation to entertain people as well?
I think winning is what I'm ultimately judged on. I don't think you could say Leicester of 2 seasons ago were an entertaining team, but they were very pragmatic and they won a final on kick meters, predominantly as a start. That's what they went after. We're trying to, and we showed that we were able to win last year, didn't we, Kieran? Because we had as many wins as anyone in the league. But clearly, there was elements of our game which were lacking by way of bonus points. So that's what I mean. A style of rugby that's more than just pragmatic. I think you have to build your base from pragmatism and then layer on elements and structures that allows the lads to express themselves, because it's a great game. Not always is it beautiful, but it's a great game in many elements. And I don't think either team were very happy with what we did with the ball at the weekend, if I'm being specific. There was a lot of mistakes and opportunities missed. There was a lot of elements to the game which we were really happy with. And looking back on that, that's a big, bold statement. It has to be better. And the lads probably thought that I was doing them a disservice for their effort they put in, because that was definitely there and jeopardy was there. Physicality on the game line was obvious to see, and these are all good things about the game. There's a set-piece battle, which turned halfway through the game, but clearly, these are professional guys, and some of them been professional for 18, 20 years, and simple 2-on-1s and drop passes is below the standards of these fellas. So that's what I was kind of alluding to, that the game's got to be better from that point of view.
Was the main takeaway or improvement from Sunday was the kind of points in the opposition 22? I know it's something that perhaps middle of the season last season wasn't great, but then massively improved towards the end of last season, and that translated into plenty of bonus point tries. Was that the main frustration, was the lack of clinical cutting edge in the red zone?
Well, ask the backs, that'll be their answer, yeah, definitely. Ask the forwards, and they thought them all needed to improve hugely, because they had 2 opportunities close to the line, 5 minutes from the line. So, but it all alludes to the same thing, which is kind of that kill zone, red zone conversion rate, yeah.
One man who I thought had a good game was Hiron Andrews. How pleased are you that he signed on for another year, and how hard will you try and convince him to extend that stay? Because he's made quite an impact since he joined early in the year.
Yeah, he's come to us at a time when we really needed line-out calling, line-out jumping, athletic lock to give some subtlety to the physicality that we've got, and he does that, and he's brought his wife and his small child Hendrix over, and he's really settled in the north. It's all about cap. It's all about how much we can spend next year, making room for him in the cap, and that's next year. Initially, it was about giving him the shop window. That's why he came, and I think we've done that, and he continues to impress us and others. So I'm hoping that he'll, having stepped out from Etzebeth's shadow and out from the Sharks, where they've got 6'7" locks, 10 a penny. He's actually finally getting some recognition for his worth, which is great for him. And we'd be lucky to keep him on. I'm sure we will be trying to make room in the cap.
Just one final one. His compatriot and a guy who plays in the same position, LaRue Raj. You talked a bit about him last week. It is, because you mentioned about him taking perhaps a bit longer than the other 2 new signings to kind of fully integrate. Is that a conditioning thing because he's had a lot of injuries, that he's kind of not quite exactly where you want him to be in terms of his conditioning, or is there an injury? Why perhaps was he not involved on Sunday? Yeah,
so initially it was a conditioning thing, having undergoing his rehabilitation from a knee, which wasn't fit enough, had to drop 7 or 8 Ks, which sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot for him. Seriously, he's carrying 145 kilograms. It's a big meal for him. And then he got some damage to a nerve via a very small protrusion from a disc in his neck, which I'm happy to say doesn't need operations, doesn't even need injecting, but there is some work needed on just one area of his muscles, which were slightly nerve damaged. So he's thereabouts, Kieran, if not this week, next.
Cheers, Al. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Ali, Rugby Pass, how are you?
Hi Liam, yeah, good to see you, mate. How are you?
You too. Just a quick one with regard to Tom, just to go back to it. Is he available to play next weekend? Has that been decided yet? You know?
No, he has to. You have to go a return to rugby kind of protocol, which starts with like a walk and then a bike and then some bag hits. You know, it's a gradual return to play, and you have to tick the box at every point in that process to return to play. But if he does all those and he's undergoing all those, it'll be good to train from next week and do contact. Not that we do a lot in the week, but it'll be good to do that from next week and fine to go on Friday.
See him against Saracens.
You won't see Tom. You will not see Tom against Saracens, yeah.
Right, yeah, no, just there was a day less, etc. That's
Yeah.
Just curious, how did you rate how he went in the time he was on the pitch? How do you feel he played?
I think he did some really good stuff. Like, you know, he's moving well. He's not got to the form where we all know Tom Curry can get to yet, and I don't think that's surprising. And I think myself and him, we've just had a chat this week about just giving him that space to be able to do it. Being all right, we're making a few mistakes, not putting too much pressure on him, and being the world-class player that we all know he is. And mixed in with that is his understanding of what a training week looks like for him now, which is slightly different, but it should have been different, you know, 3 years ago. Like, he was always doing too much, Tom. And that's how we got himself geared up for games. So now we're going to find a balance which works for him for the long term. And we're in that process. I'm quite excited about that process because he's matured, and it means we can find ways to keep him fit for longer and find his best rugby without him going right into the red every week by way of his training. That's the challenge that we're facing, and I know we'll get there. He's committed to that, and I am.
Okay, just to flip the question you were asked earlier about entertainment, etc. On the upside of that, we had a prop getting the player of the match at the weekend.
How about that?
Front rowers. Bevan, I'm just wondering what you make of Bevan. He signed a 3-year contract extension back in February with you guys, having missed a good bit of the season with the toe injury. What are you expecting from him? There's so much focus on other props at your club, on the tight head side,
Yeah.
with Asher and James Harper and those sort of guys. We kind of forget about Bevan at times, yeah?
I don't, Liam. I never have. Well, let's call him the hot rod of props. You know, he came off tour and of course he was disappointed. He got one cap and he might have gotten on the game, but he clearly got overtaken by Finn Baxter, so there was a bit of a personal battle there at the weekend, and you be the judge, but he got man of the match, and I feel like he had a point to prove there, and he'll continue to prove his points throughout the season. He is a different character in a good way, Bevan is, and I haven't figured him out, he's still a closed book to me, but I'm enjoying the process of him figuring himself out. But when you get him, like you saw at the weekend, that motivated, he's a special player to have in your side. And not only because he can scrum and scrum well, as you saw, you know, against an international tight head, who's 20 stone plus, I might add. He's a big guy to keep off the deck, his TT Lamataselli. Just his movement around the park, his mobility, is like a back rower. I've said this before, like he fills in holes in defence. He's chasing back on line breaks. He's a phenomenal player. The fact he looks 34 and he's only 24 goes against him sometimes. You know, he's got a long road ahead of him. I'm really happy that he's chose the next 3 years to be here. Like we talk about working together long term, and you know that's why I do the job. That's exactly why I do it, so I can work with people like Bevan and enjoy myself while I do it.
What's his character like? Is he a bit of a
He's bonkers, mate. No, he's an energy.
Or is he just a bit of a social animal in that way?
Well, look, he has the love of the lads because he was a social animal, very much so. You know, the heartbeat of when the boys went out, and then he realised that in doing that, he's not going to get where he wants to go. So he stopped going out, you know, picks his moments when he does, as a good one. But he's bought himself a hyperbaric tent, sleeps in that 2 hours a day. This is the difference in him. And from being not a class clown, but an energy giver, like you can hear him down the corridor when he comes into the meeting rooms and stuff. Last year he wanted to change that opinion, the player's opinion of himself, because he knew that's what he needed to get and play with international honours. So we've talked a lot about his influence on the group and how he can be an energy giver maybe off the field, but once he he crosses, we call it the blue, you know, most people say the whitewash, that his application, his mental shift to training is one that other people want to follow. So he's maturing, as the group are, as I've been saying. This is a group that 2 years ago, the bulk of the 23, 22-year-olds, now they're 24, 25, and they're finding themselves as men, which is really rewarding again.
Okay, great. Just final topic for me, just watching the games of the weekend, etc. You're always, as always, you're down on the touchline watching it from there, which is going to be a limited enough view, given you don't have elevation, you don't have a bank of computers in front of you like all the other coaches we see. Or DORs, they're up in the stand. Why do you take that approach? What do you get from it?
I don't think you can see anything from a computer that immediately that enables you to get a message onto the field. It's just not possible. Or I'll have a look at that, I'll see it again. By the time the message comes on, it's probably changed. So it's probably time and energy wasted up there. That's one reason. I get a feel on the touchline of energy and physicality. Real time, you know, like on and off the field. I know I can make my voice heard. So on occasion, like I can shout to a player, even if it's a point of encouragement, just so they can hear and feel me from the touchline. I feel a connection there. And perhaps the most important thing is so when they come off, regardless of how they played, I can shake their hand, Liam. I can give them a cuddle. You know, they're never going to learn a lesson in the moment if they need to do anything well. They just need to know that you made them proud to a degree. I'm not trying to be cringy with this at all. It's just a handshake and a thank you. There's that, and then when I send someone on for them, I can just have a word in their ear, and I know that message is going on. I think that's more productive use to my time than pouring over the game, which I'm going to do anyway, 2 times, 3 times over the day after.
It's very interesting. Appreciate the insight. Good luck.
Thanks. Cheers, Liam. Thanks, mate. We all good? Or Danny, are you all right? You there? Ashley, you new to? How you doing?
Hello.
How are you? You all right?
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah. I will confess. If I catch my breath every now and again, I got hit from behind by Tom Roebuck today, blindsided, not on purpose, so he says. I reckon I've cracked a rib here. So I couldn't shout for the rest of the session. The boys were really happy about that. He's done them all a solid. So yeah, I'm well in my mentality, but my old bones are creaking, Ashley.
Well, I won't take up loads of your time. I'm really sorry to hear.
You're all right.
Just a word from you, Alex, on the occasion of Saturday, because you know it's going to be a big game, especially for your opposition. What have you made of them from their first game? Because they had a cracker.
Yeah,
and
decent.
Then the occasion on Saturday as well.
Like I said, they showed many of the traits. We talked about them as a team, didn't we, from the start, Chris did. They showed many of the traits that they managed to hold on to from last season, like really clinical in that red zone area. As we weren't, they were. I thought the set pieces improved. Scrum, in particular, they've always been good at the maul. They had second highest maul dominance. They showed that again at the weekend through not just the line-up moves, but some of the maul dominance. I hope Riccioni's all right, I truly do. You don't want to see a lad go down and go off. You know, we want that contest up front. And then the line speed's improved. There's definite an improvement from last year. They've narrowed up slightly and gone harder off the line. So there's loads of things to deal with. You've really got to be on your mettle in every part of the game because they'll catch you out in some part otherwise. As for the cake, go on.
Sorry.
No, you're right. I was waffling. You continue, please.
No, you weren't. Alex, continue.
I was just going to talk about the occasion.
Yeah.
Them beating us in the final, all but 17 months ago, 18. Not even that. It's not even that long ago. I still feel the pain. In fact, I feel the pain of failure sits with you a lot longer than the elation of success and winning. It does, for whatever reason. It kind of drives me a bit more. So, and I know it's not wholly the same team, but I'm still going to take. I hope the lads will exact some rough justice from that game. And then on the flip side of that, you know, we beat them at their ground for the first time in a long time, right at the back end of the season, took the home semi away from them when it was the kind of game and swan song for all their exiting players. So I'm sure that's sitting on them as well. So there's a game to be won and there's points to be had, but there's personal, I wouldn't say vendettas. It's a bit severe. There's personal motivations there as well. I think both sides.
And when you had that review period on Monday, how much were you looking ahead to this game in the fact that you're not going to be able to totally rely on just George for the boots?
How do you know that? Maybe that's how we've worked our game plan.
Maybe that is the game plan. I don't know.
Excuse me. Yeah. So on the review we were very honest. You know, with the areas, I've been honest with you. I don't bullshit. I just don't see the need for mind games. We were very honest with the areas where we knew we had to get better. Otherwise, we won't get the performance or the win this weekend. And kind of stated those areas in and around the mall and that kill zone efficiency. That allied to because they're so clinical. Like, you give them opportunities on turnovers or through discipline, they'll capitalise on those. They showed that against Gloucester, didn't they? And we limited them to 6 penalties, actually 4 penalties and 2 free kicks down there. It was 13 at the weekend and 7 by way of the breakdown. So there's an awareness there that discipline is key down at the Stonex.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're all right. See you Saturday, Ashley. Yeah. I've obviously bored Daniel Schofield off. He's switched off, so...
Well, can I just jump in a follow-up? Bevan and his hyperbaric tent.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he's into camping. I take it this tent's in his house.
Yeah.
Around Beam.
Yeah, sleeps in a tent in his house. I told you he was a bit strange. Yeah, he bought it himself.
How long has he done that?
Well, the last couple of years, last year and a half, yeah. So much so that 2 of the lads have bought one, so it's catching. It's that wet up north, you have to sleep in a tent in your house. It was terrible at the weekend, wasn't it?
So he used it when he was going back from his foot injury, did he?
For recovery and for injury rehabilitation, yeah, for both.
Yeah, so it's like extended ice bath without the pain of the ice, just it's doing you good when you're asleep.
You'll have to look it up. It's definitely, yeah. It's oxygen, isn't it? It's something to do with oxygen. I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't even know why I answered that question. I have no idea what it's about. Have a look on.
Googling it now for me.
Yeah, Sam's doing his best to Google it. Wikipedia hyperbaric chamber.
So this is something that a couple of the lads have also got then.
Yeah, Ross has got one, and Rafi's got one. Ross.
You might need one for your back.
Oh, do I? Yeah. I'll be all right. Like I say, I haven't got anything to run around to do, have I? If anything, it'll slow me down.
I've got to ask you if there's any change in the situation in what you can talk about Johnny Hill.
Oh, no, still nothing I can communicate at this point in time. Like, we are have internally disciplined him, and that'll all kind of come out in the wash, but it's still quite sensitive. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. So there's still the outside element of this, which means you can't actually say anything.
Yeah, and that's kind of wrapped up with the RFU, and as is our own internal disciplinary measures that we put in place. It's all part of the hubbub in terms of when he's available to play again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we should keep asking until...
Yeah, no, please do. Like, and as soon as I know and I'm given the green light, I'll let you know. You'll be the first to know, Chris, because you always ask the first question.
Okay, well, good luck with your back. Thank you.
Are you all right? It's all right. Don't need sympathy. I just need painkillers. Elena, are you new to the room?
Yeah.
Welcome.
I'm working Ruck at the minute. I'm a journalist student.
Yeah.
I was just wanting to ask, given your success last season, how do you think your team this season compares to last season, and how do you think you can improve?
Well, on paper, through experience, better, Elena. Like we've gained experience, and as I say, the team is coming to a maturation point in the player life cycle of a player. The group is moving to that point where they're starting to take more ownership, more autonomy over what we do, over the programme, over their own actions. And when that happens, it's a self-driven, altruistic environment. Do you know what I mean? And it's not quite as enjoyable to coach because it's a lot more hands-off, you're more facilitating and man-managing, but I've seen it happen before, and I'm hoping that the change that we saw at the back end of the season, which is exactly that, which we tried to hold on to and build on through the pre-season, will elevate us again through this next season. And I think that's the key, because then you just get ahead of the curve when things aren't feeling right in training or they're not transferring onto the game. You're getting that feedback quicker. There's a higher degree of inter-organisational honesty. So I think that's probably our biggest strength that we can lean into this year. And look, if we play as we did the back end of last season with that kind of attitude, coupled with some of our attacking intent, which Kieran alluded to before, and we keep people on the field, so we're looking to improve our high performance department. That's all the S&C and the medical and the rehabilitation, so we keep players on field. There's no reason why we shouldn't be going one better than where we've been, or two better than last year and one better than the year before. That's how we're talking. Not assuming it's going to happen, but that we have the capabilities and the opportunity, this group at this point in time, to do something special for the North. And I mention the North because I think there's only us and Newcastle who are flying that flag. And again, it's a higher purpose when it becomes something bigger than just your little group. It matters. I've got stuck it up on the board. I'm just going to give an example of this. There's a rugby pitch with 15 players drawn on it, and not the best detail of drawing, but every player's on there who played. And the rugby pitch is not square, it's an oval. But the message was from our Down syndrome rugby team. They were all on guards of honour at the weekend, and they were the first kids stood there when I got out of my car and walked into the change rooms, and they don't accept handshakes or high fives. It's got to be a cuddle, it's got to be a massive hug. And they run up to you and they give you a hug, and I'm like, wow, this is mega, this is great, because you can see it's making a difference to these kids. And then another thank you letter, and this little girl who was a mascot who loves the Sharks. So I'm just pinning them up on the board so they can see the effect they're having on the little kids and the boys and the girls who want to pick up a rugby ball and come to the game. And that's the audience you want to reach through the brand of rugby, Kieran, and through the fact we've got really good role models like Beven Rodd in the group. So yeah, I rambled on a bit there, but for so many reasons, I think we're in a good spot to do what we've been talking about all pre-season.
Touch on the fact that Union is more of a southern game and then League is more northern.
Yeah.
Do you think that with Sale being a northern team and achieving success, there will be a bigger move towards Union in the north?
This is kind of getting back to the point I've just made, like we want it to be. Yeah, we want it to be a guiding light, an influence, a draw for kids who are at school and will come to Union as opposed to go to League, or try both, just stay in the game, do you know what I mean? Just make sure rugby is important. Definitely, it's on the agenda, yeah. And I know it's not just mine, because you can't think like that every day. You can't. It's nice to talk about it with you, but if my scope is so wide, like on a Monday, Tuesday, I'm missing the detail that we need to do on the pitch. So you've really got to narrow it down. But like tomorrow, and when I talk about that again on Friday, we'll probably allude to that. As doing it for the region.